Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Cecilia, and on behalf of OTC Markets, as well as our co-host, Alpha Transform Holdings and Blockchain Wire, we're very pleased you've joined us for our next live presentation from Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund. Please note, you can submit questions for the presenters in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome James Farrell, Head of Investor Relations, and Matt Hogan, Chief Investment Officer of Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol BITW. Welcome, James and Matt.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bitwise portion of today's conference. For those unfamiliar with Bitwise, we are a crypto asset manager headquartered in San Francisco, founded in 2017. We currently run 20 different funds ranging from ETFs, private placements, SMAs, active strategies, and manage just north of $3.5 billion in AUM today. I'm James Farrell, head of IR, joined by my longtime friend and colleague here at Bitwise and CIO Matt Hogan. Matt, how are you doing today?
Doing great, James. Excited for this conversation.
Yeah, me too, Matt. Matt, the topic of conversation today is a Bitwise fund both of us are very familiar with, a fund that is the oldest Bitwise product and a flagship product, a product both of us are investors in, and that product is the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund, ticker BITW. Matt, I thought it'd be great to kind of start back at the beginning, sort of rewinding the clocks to 2018, right when we both joined Bitwise. BITW was still in its infancy stage as a product. If you could just spend a minute talking about how the fund came into existence and really began, and what the crypto landscape looked like 6-7 years ago, back when we both joined.
Absolutely. Yeah, love this fund. It's my single largest personal holding in the crypto market. And I know we'll get into why and what it does. But it is interesting to go back in time 6 or 7 years. It was a very different crypto market than the market that we have today. Things we take for granted today, like the existence of institutional quality custodians, there were very few in the market. Fidelity hadn't even entered the market, and they were maybe the first large name to move into the space. There were, of course, firms like Coinbase doing quality work on the custody landscape, but it was all very new and unproven. And crypto assets themselves were more new and unproven than they are today. Things that we take for granted, James, like stable coins, NFTs, DeFi, many of the early initial breakthrough applications of crypto literally didn't exist if you go back in time. You were really dealing with a disruptive technology that was emerging into its own and which held a lot of promise for the world, but you needed to be able to look pretty far out to see that promise in a way that's no longer the case today. One big gap in the market, however, there were a lot of investors who wanted exposure to what was happening in crypto, to the possibility, to the things that public blockchains uniquely could do. And there were no high quality diversified funds out there that provided that exposure. In fact, the Bitwise 10 was literally the first crypto index fund in the world. So we created the category. It was a very early market. We've come an enormously long way. There is, of course, a long way to go, but it was really a remarkable time to pioneer the index fund market by bringing this fund to market. And we've had an incredible track record in the 6 or 7 years since it first launched.
That's awesome, Matt. Matt, I love this line. May I suggest a blend? It's an ode to one of our previous marketing campaigns, which I still think carries a ton of weight. I think a lot of the folks we speak with love the diversification that BITW offers, and not like to have to pick the winners. And a fund like BITW that captures the majority of the crypto market, professionally managed by Bitwise, held in secure custody via Coinbase Institutional, the rebalancing aspect, which happens monthly, all of that goes a long way. And I think the majority of folks I speak with just love this approach. And if you could just share a little bit about how BITW can impact and play a role in a traditional portfolio.
Yeah, well, let's talk about why a blend is so important, and then I'd love to talk about its potential role in a portfolio. As I mentioned, this was the first index fund in crypto that ever existed. Today, it's the largest crypto index fund in the world. And why is that interesting? Well, crypto and public blockchains is a major disruptive new technology. It allows us to do things we've never been able to do before, like store wealth without relying on a centralized institution, or move money around the world at the speed of a text message, or program money like software, or have digital property rights. These are huge ideas that could change giant sections of the economy. And I have a huge degree of confidence that public blockchains will be significantly more important in the future than they are today. Indeed, they're more important today than they were when we got started in this space back in 2018. But it's difficult to know in any disruptive technology exactly how it will play out. If you were investing in the early days of the internet, it was easy to invest in Ask Jeeves and to miss Yahoo and Google. If you were early to investing in mobile phones, maybe you made a big allocation to BlackBerry and you missed the iPhone. Maybe you were in MySpace instead of Facebook. Maybe you had a Betamax instead of a VHS. It's not always the case that the first mover in a space captures the entire market, or indeed the dominant part of the market. And it's difficult to know exactly how this public blockchain space will turn out. The beauty of an index-based product is you don't need to know. You can make the bet that blockchain will be more important in the future than it is today. And the fund like BITW that's market cap weighted, that's regularly rebalanced, that screens out assets with significant risks, it will capture that possibility no matter how it turns out. If Bitcoin is the only asset that matters, the Bitwise 10 will eventually own essentially only Bitcoin. If Ethereum becomes the most important asset, its weight in the index will rise. If Solana disrupts Ethereum, well, guess what? That fund will allocate more and more to Solana. You can make one simple bet, which is that blockchain will be more important in the future than it is today, rather than have to make a specific bet that you can pick the Google amidst the Yahoos and Ask Jeeves and Ask.coms out there, which is much more challenging. So I think that's the place it plays within crypto. And I think that's going to be a very large place indeed. From a portfolio context, of course, crypto is a very interesting asset. It's an asset with high historical returns, with a lot of volatility, that's liquid so that you can rebalance it. BITW trades, every day. You can rebalance it at any time. And what history will tell you, that if you have an asset that has those characteristics and that isn't correlated with traditional stocks, adding a little bit to your portfolio can substantially increase your risk-adjusted returns on a historical basis. Now, there's no guarantee that it will do it in the future, but it is an exciting asset given that it has significant potential and historically has had low correlations to the rest of the market.
Thanks so much, Matt. All right, next question. A topic we get asked a lot on within the IR team here at Bitwise, and I know you've been asked many times before, why do premiums and discounts exist? And maybe taking a second to talk about premiums and discounts in this section, but BITW is not an ETF, and I think we get that question a lot. Really just spending time diving into premiums and discounts a bit and why they exist today, and why BITW isn't an ETF today.
Yeah, such an important topic. And I do think it's important that anyone investing in BITW understands that it can trade to premiums and or discounts to its net asset value, and that we as an issuer don't control that. That is set by the market. And I think that's really important. Maybe I'll start, James, just by describing what a premium and discount is in a traditional fund. Let's say that a fund owns assets that are worth $100 a share. So it could be any asset. It could be crypto, it could be gold, it could be stocks, it could be bonds. That doesn't matter. For this purpose, let's just imagine that the fund holds assets that are worth $100 a share. In a traditional ETF, what you would see is that the share price of the ETF trading during the day would typically stay very close to that $100 a share mark, Maybe it would be $100 and a penny or 2 pennies, but it wouldn't be significantly different. It would always track the net asset value of the fund itself. The reason for this, right? The reason for this is that with an ETF, every day you can create more shares or you can redeem more shares. If it is trading to a discount, like let's say it traded to $90, someone could buy those shares for $90 and turn them into us and get $100 back of the underlying assets. Same thing if it traded to a premium of $110, someone could create new shares with us and sell them into the market. And that ability to arbitrage premiums and discounts on a daily basis is what keeps ETFs trading in line with their net asset value. The way BITW works, the way many other OTCQX traded trusts work, and indeed the way things like closed-end funds work, is that there isn't the same daily creation and redemption activity. In other words, in BITW, there are a certain number of shares that exist at this point. There is no redemption facility. And so how they track their net asset value depends on the demand for the shares. And we have seen there be extreme levels of demand, which have driven up premiums. And we've seen there be significant discounts. And that is just a feature of the product. It's not necessarily good, bad, or other. It's just a fact of the product. And the important thing from an investor's perspective is that you understand that it exists and you understand that those premium and discounts can change over time.
Yeah, that was well said. Completely agree. And the discount has come down, from all-time highs, and we've seen premiums in the 500-600% range as well. So it ranges quite a bit. Matt, the last question before we get into Q&A, kind of piggybacking off the last one, right? ETFs, we've recently seen the first spot Bitcoin ETFs here in the US come to market earlier this year. We were a big player in that initial wave of spot Bitcoin ETFs. We have BITB, which is doing great, has one of the lowest fees in the market today, and has been one of the most successful ETF launches in history. But circling back to BITW, do you envision BITW one day converting to an ETF, which in theory, as you just discussed, would eliminate big premiums and big discounts as market makers can ARP away that premium or discount by creating and redeeming new shares? Is that the future you see with BITW and ETF one day, and what will it take us to get there?
Yeah, I certainly hope so. We've publicly committed that we will convert it to an ETF when allowed to by the SEC. And James, you know that I love ETFs like I love my children. Just above my head, you can see a Lifetime Achievement Award that I won in the ETF space. So it is my favorite fund vehicle. And as you mentioned, it would go a long way to eliminating that question of premiums and discounts, because if you could convert it to an ETF, you could create and redeem on a daily basis, and that arbitrage would cause it to snap in line with its net asset value. Now, we don't get to decide that, unfortunately. We would need SEC approval to allow the ETF conversion to take place. The good news, as you mentioned, is that the industry is making progress. We recently saw the launch of spot Bitcoin ETFs. They've worked exceptionally well. They've lowered costs for investors. They've traded in line with their net asset value. They've functioned in an extremely good way. That's an important step. So the ETF door has opened at the SEC for crypto. But of course, BITW, its core value is that it owns more than Bitcoin. It owns Ethereum. It owns Solana. It owns other large cap assets. That's what makes it special. And the SEC has not yet allowed other crypto assets to be wrapped in an ETF and launched on the market. Now, people are pushing in that direction too, James, right? There are multiple filings for Ethereum ETFs. Ethereum is the second largest holding in BITW. And if we can get Ethereum ETF approvals down the road, perhaps we can get approvals for other assets and eventually have the circumstance to allow BITW to convert. The way I think about it in my own personal investing is that I have a very long time horizon for crypto. I'm investing in crypto for my kids. I'm holding for multiple years. And in my time horizon, I'm hopeful that we can see BITW convert to an ETF. And as a result, I worry less about the premium and discount personally than other people might who have shorter term time horizons. The thing I would say, just to summarize, Bitwise intends to convert BITW to an ETF when allowed to by the SEC. We actively work on it. We actively support the fund in an existing format, and it can be a great solution as long as people understand that premiums and discounts can exist until we're allowed to convert it to an ETF in the future. We can't guarantee that will happen, but we can promise that we will be working on it, as indeed we are.
Yeah, well said. I totally agree with all that, Matt. Thank you. Let's see. Those are the 4 topics. Matt, thank you so much. Getting some great questions in here, though, from the chat. So we have about 15 minutes left. Let's take some questions from the audience. And just as a reminder to the audience, you could ask questions in the chat. And if we don't get back to everybody, we will follow up with you post this webinar. Additionally, if you have any questions, feel free to email them to me at investors@bitwiseinvestments.com. So with that, Matt, let's take some questions. Some great ones coming in. Let's see. How can I buy BITW today? Is it available in majority of brokerage accounts? How do I access it? Great question.
Yeah, absolutely great question. You would know this even better than me, James, but
Yeah.
the short answer is yes, right?
Right. Short answer is yes. It's available today in a variety of brokerage accounts throughout the U.S., majority of brokerage accounts throughout the U.S., not just individual brokerage accounts. You could buy it through a retirement account, 401k. Really depends on your broker. So I would say reach out to your broker, and as long as ticker BITW is available to buy or sell, it's available to buy or sell. It's that easy. And it trades Monday through Friday when market hours are open. Great question. Getting a couple of these questions, Matt, maybe you want to take this one. I mentioned 20 products Bitwise currently runs and has currently running today. What other products does Bitwise offer? And maybe just give a quick overview of that. That'd be great.
Absolutely. I mean, our 2 flagship products are BITW, which is the world's largest crypto index fund, which I think is just one of the most exciting funds you can have in the market in terms of owning the entirety of the market. And BITB, which is our recently launched Bitcoin ETF, which is now a multi-billion-dollar product that trades, 10 or north of $100 million every day, and is a very low-cost way to access the Bitcoin market. But we do have a variety of other products out there. We have the first ETF to have crypto in its name, which is a crypto equity ETF, BITQ, and that holds companies that are building and supporting the crypto ecosystem. So Coinbase and Galaxy and Bitcoin miners. And it's important that, that is a very attractive, interesting area of the crypto market as well. Many people pair equity exposure through something like BITQ with crypto exposure through something like BITW, so that they have both sides of the pie covered. We have a variety of private funds and SMAs that get more specific. If you want to invest in DeFi, we have a fund for that. If you want to invest in NFTs, James, we have a fund that invests solely in NFTs. Look, we aim to be your tool, your access point for entering the crypto market, whether that's broad-based exposure or narrow exposure, whether it's equities or crypto assets, whether it's passive or active strategies. What unites all of them is deep expertise in the crypto market and a commitment to support these through bull and bear markets alike, as we've been doing for 7+ years.
Well said, Matt. And we've been doing it for 7 years, as you just said. And we partner with some great third parties like Coinbase, like PwC, KPMG. You go down the list. It's come a long way since we first started in 2018, but it's an exciting time for sure. And the ways to access those products too, it depends, right? Like the ETFs you can buy Monday through Friday, click of a button. The private placements, a subdoc, a wire. So it varies in complexity, but that's why, you come to a place like Bitwise where you have a specialist and can assist you along that journey. We have a great sales team too, a 20-person plus sales team here across the US, talking to advisors every single day. So we are trying to be that crypto specialist, as Matt said, for everybody here in the US and everyone on this call. Great question. Let's see, couple good questions coming in around BITW specific. someone was on our website, Matt, while we were speaking, and looked at the current makeup of the fund and asked, has Ethereum always been the second largest holding in the fund? It's a great question. And
It is a great question.
yeah,
I believe the answer to that is yes. Correct me if I'm wrong, James.
I think
Um,
I think there was a split second where XRP, which came out of the index because we have those
yep.
screenings, was there for a hot second. But then majority of our tenure here, it's been Bitcoin and ETH. But again, as you alluded to, Matt, that might not be the case in 4 or 5 years from now, which is the beauty of BITW. Um, that's a great question. Let's keep going down the list. We're getting some good ones, Matt. Let's keep it going here. Maybe you could answer this one, Matt, talking about screening out certain crypto assets. And this is an important one. How do we think about that? Maybe someone saw our methodology on the site, but maybe just summarize the importance of
Yeah.
screening out certain crypto assets from a fund like BITW.
It's really important, and we're really proud of the track record we built over the last 7 years. As some examples, Luna was a stable coin that collapsed. It was a $60 billion stable coin. At one point, it was the fourth largest crypto asset
Yeah.
in the world, and it never made it into our index, even though we hold, the number 10 is in the name, right? It's the Bitwise 10. So you would imagine the fourth largest asset would make it in, but it didn't.
Right.
We haven't held Dogecoin. We didn't hold FTT's token. We didn't hold Binance's token. I think you have to get to about asset 21 or 22 before you find the 10th asset in our index product. And we're really proud of that track record of avoiding the blowups in the space. It's very important if you're investing on the frontier to have those sorts of risk controls. So how do we do it? Well, we have a series of 6 or 7 rules meant to screen out assets that have what we call binary risk, which is to say that you could have an asset that essentially falls to zero in a few days, the way Luna did. Some of those rules, you have to be able to custody it with an institutional US custodian. If there's no institutional quality custodian that will custody an asset, that should be a red flag, and you can just step aside. It has to trade on high quality crypto exchanges. It has to have a certain amount of liquidity. In the view of our internal team, which includes the former assistant DA for San Francisco, it has to not face undue risk of being found in violation of federal securities laws. We also evaluate it from a technical and token economic perspective. That's how we avoided the Luna blowup. And then we have amazing advisors who provide a second level of check. Right? We have the former head of indexing for Bloomberg and S&P. We have the very first Wall Street analyst who covered crypto. We have a DeFi council with 4 of the largest VCs. And assets have to run through all of these screens, which may seem like a lot of work. And it is. We have entire teams here at Bitwise who do exactly that. But again, look, there are huge opportunities in crypto. Again, I think it's one of the most disruptive, important financial technology breakthroughs of the last 30 years. But there are still risks. This is like investing in an emerging market, and you need those risk screens. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that they've really stood the test of time for the past 7 years. And I think they will stand the test of time for the next 70.
Love that. That was great. The couple more questions on BITW with market price versus the underlying NAV, and this is a great one. And this all kind of coincides with premiums and discounts. I'm happy to take this one from the start, Matt. But a question came in: Has the NAV always tracked the market price 1-to-1? The short answer is no, it hasn't. There's been periods where the market is up and BITW is down, and vice versa. The market price is up and Bitcoin is down. Recently, if you look at the 2 track records of the 2 products trading both market price and NAV over the last year, they have very much more correlated than when they were first launched back in December of 2020. But if you just look at the last year alone, I believe BITW is up around 210% on the market. The NAV's only up about 100%. So there's been periods of more significant premiums and more significant discounts. It all depends ultimately on when you started or had that investment. But it's getting more correlated. The discount has come down quite dramatically right now. I believe it's right around 30%. At its peak, it was 70, traded at a 600% premium at one point. So these premiums and discounts have always been associated with the public trading of BITW, but it is becoming closer to NAV than ever before, and that's an exciting time. So not always is the short answer there, I would say, but it's very much over the last year, much more aligned than it ever has been before. Great. Last question we got in here, Matt. Could you highlight why Bitwise feels the multi-asset index-based approach in crypto is valuable? And I think you've hit on this, but maybe just a few more words on that versus someone maybe just thinking about, oh, I'll put, half in Bitcoin, half in ETH.
Yeah. I would say, the few ways to answer that. One is sort of an intellectual humility. Look, I have a high degree of confidence that public blockchains will be really important, but a relatively low degree of confidence in being able to pick and choose. I could sit on here and argue with you on why Ethereum has an unassailable network effect advantage, and that Solana will never catch up. But I could also argue that Solana's, monolithic design makes it faster and easier to use than Ethereum and has a better UX, and it will surpass it. And I spend 24/7, 365 thinking about this and surrounded by very smart people thinking about this. And I'm honestly unsure of exactly how it will play out. But I am very confident that the applications we're seeing built on blockchains like Ethereum and Solana are going to be very important. And I'd rather just be generally right than get the trend right, but make precisely the wrong investment. Look, I think the size of this market is large enough that if you are correctly in the ballpark, you're going to do exceptionally well. And you would hate to be the investor who got the crypto question right, but made the wrong allocation. And the beauty of BITW is it removes that second question. It always holds the 10 largest assets that pass our screening risks at a market cap weight, no matter what happens in the market, and it updates every month. It can just give you peace of mind that you have the crypto box checked and you don't have to pay attention every week or every day to the latest news to make sure you're updated with what's going on. And I think that's an enormous service, not for everybody, but for many investors who just want to make sure they have exposure to this space.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, the majority, it was our first product, right? This is why this call is so exciting. BITW, one of the reasons I think both of us joined back in 2018 was this incredible approach to crypto, not just putting all your eggs in Bitcoin or ETH. And I still think there's a ton of value and a ton of opportunity to be had with BITW as a product. People ask me all the time, James, I just opened an account at Coinbase or Kraken. What do I do? I generally tend to tell them, look at BitW. It's a great product. So I think that there is a lot of value in it. We're both investors, both Matt and I, many of us at Bitwise are, and it's an exciting product. So if there are any questions, I think we'll wrap it at that. There's about a minute left. If there are any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is investors@bitwiseinvestments.com. You can follow us on Twitter X, BitwiseInvest. Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much for this opportunity today. Appreciate your time. Thank you to OTC Markets and the team here. I thought this was great. So if there's not anything else, we'll wrap. And if there weren't any questions, I don't think we got to most of them. If not, we'll get back to you via email.
Thanks so much, everybody.